from Columbia, South Carolina. Ladies and gentlemen, BLUENOSE the Bully. Talk to me, I guess, to the best of your knowledge about how the ROLL'N 40 Crips made it to Columbia, South Carolina.
Basically with us, man, you got so many different ways people went about doing that. Like, ever since I was a kid, before I was even really, actively gangbanging, you had, like, all these guys that was claiming these gangs from California. And I guess you would say, it wasn't really them so much that weren't really with it or, about that action or what you might say, but, like, it was just their connections that weren't really there. So you had a lot of cats running around banging ROLL'N 90s, ROLL'N 60s, Hoovers, all these gangs that obviously originated in California. But, they just weren't really on board like that. And slowly but surely you started getting a little bit, here and there, cats that were connected. Like, you got the 90s, OG Freeze, rest in peace, was a close homie of mine, really was connected to California. Then you got Big U, he was a really, really known big homie from the 6-0s on the West Coast. He's got a lot to do with the South Coast 60s. You got the South Coast 60s down there in the South right now, going crazy from Texas to, Georgia, and that's all because of you and whatnot. And then it eventually reached South Carolina as well. Now with me, me and all my boys and shit, like, for instance, you watch Respect the Glove, and all those boys you see, those are no randoms. Those are all, I look at them like my kids more than my brothers, you know what I mean? Like, I really raised these dudes, and, we grew up with each other and put each other on that type of path, you know what I mean? And we was doing our own little thing, you know what I'm saying? We had our own little clique. We was just neighborhood Crips. We didn't know what we was doing. We was just young and stupid and didn't even know what the purpose behind it was. Didn't know what Crip really was, nothing, you know what I'm saying? Just young and stupid. But I was about 14 years old. My big brother, he was born in California. His name's Big Mop, Boot Mop. I'm Tiny Mop and shit. He was from California. He was actually from California, rolled the 40s and whatnot. So that's definitely what separates me and everybody else, because everybody else is just kind of doing their thing and just kind of try to copy what everybody else is doing. But rather with me, I actually went, and actually been to LA. I'm known in Los Angeles, California, all the way from there to Connecticut, New York, and Georgia, and all these places, Tennessee, like just everywhere you could imagine, that we actually do have official chapters. I just started, doing my thing and whatnot, and, push come to shove. Between the age of 14 and 17, I was just doing my shit, man, and at that, I was just with my brother, man, and, he just kind of was seeing what I was doing and didn't really want me to be out there being stupid with it. Like, I guess he was looking at it like, man, they got their own little thing going, but I don't want him to get, run into the wrong person and end up getting hurt over this, because he doesn't know exactly what he's doing, or he might run into somebody from California that sees he's neighborhood cripping, but they don't really like the way they're going about it. So that's really when my brother, kind of pushed the card with us. It was like, what, I'm going to bring you home, and we're going to do it like this, and So, like I said, between 14 and 17, I was just going crazy with it and ended up, going back home from the West Coast. I stayed a few years bouncing back and forth. Like, I went to LA a few times. I got a lot of family out here on the West Coast in general and stuff, Arizona and Utah, California, everywhere. So, I ended up going back home and shit and just telling the boys what it was, and look, you can be on board or not be on board, but, we're about to push this 40 shit, and the homies was all with it. We started doing our thing, and, is getting our name out there like everybody else, and it went from when we was, little young cats, people was like, oh, well, who are them, and what are they about, to, now it's known, there ain't no questions asked, like, oh, 40s, okay, so, that's BLUENOSE and them boys down there, so, it's been a long time coming, and 10 years plus pushing, we've been banging way longer than that, but, 10 years plus that, we've been hectic, with staying on top of that, pushing and making sure it's known, like, we're bigger than that, it's not like we just low life, that's all we do is gang, that's all we care about. We all, we got businesses, we do a lot of things, very business oriented, like, even myself, I run a jiu-jitsu school. Most people wouldn't expect that, but, that's what I do, and the homies love that, I even got some of the homies from the hood doing it, so, we really business-oriented people. Yeah, and family-oriented is the most important part that we push. But, as said, there was a lot of California gangs where I'm from, even before all that happened. So we really had to kind of jump out there and put our foot on people's necks to make it happen.
What I understand, and of course this comes from Gangland, I'm sure you've watched the same episode. Before then, is it safe to say that Columbia was mostly a blood city?
Definitely. So yeah, definitely. Hey, you don't got no misunderstanding there, man. Everybody always thinks, oh well, is it just Gangland making it look like that? It's the bloody South and stuff, and or what? Nah, it really was, man, for sure. Like even my neighborhood, you know, the video Respect the Glove, where we recorded that at, that's my neighborhood where I was born and raised, still, you know, still got a house owned over there that my family's in and everything. Really ain't no getting no realer, you know, basically back in them days, bro, maybe when I was about between the age of 5 and 10, I was growing up and I was seeing, you know, 4 or 5, you know what I mean, different older blood homies that were out there. They were cool, you know, wasn't no issues, but you know, we were young little, you know, lokes and shit, and we didn't ever look at it like, you know, it was issues, because in the South it's a little bit different. It's down there, people try to really be more closer to pushing the peace card. It's like, okay, well, as long as we don't got no problems, it ain't no problems. You know, rather in LA, it was always, oh, you're from that block, that's a problem.
Yeah.
You know, in the South, it was easier to get along. You know, all the Crips, it wasn't until about maybe 10 years ago where Crips started, like, beefing harsh with the other Crips and whatnot, to where we was actually making it like, oh, well, we ain't gonna beef with other Crips just because they're doing it in Cali because that's stupid and da-da-da-da-da-da, you know, and we were the younger, you know, the young crazy buck generation that was looking at it like, well, we're following their rules and guidelines, so we're gonna go all the way through with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, there ain't no point in us claiming neighborhood Crip, us claiming 40s, 60s, 90s, all these California address gangs, if we're not going to really abide by those rules and regulations. You can't say, oh, I'm a rolling 60, but I love the Hoovers. It just don't work like that. It just looks funny. So, you know, it's just kind of different ways you got to go about it and shit, you know? Like, yeah, it definitely was a predominant blood territory, you know, and then slowly but surely the GDs are definitely the biggest gang in the South. I'd probably even say the nation. Yeah,
like
definitely. Yeah, the GDs, man, the folks, those are the homies, you know, like in the West Coast, it's kind of like a hit and miss with them. It's like, you know, sometimes you get along, sometimes you don't. But in the South, we've always looked at it like the GDs and the Crips are really, really close. You know what I mean? Like, we look at each other like cousins. So, you know, there was really never no issues with any of the GDs. It was just all the blood. So we had to, you know, slowly but surely push them all back, you know. And, don't get me wrong, I got a select handful of homies that are real close to me that are bloods from, you know, like 9 Trey and, you know, 135 Treetop, or, 135 Paru, and then you got, like, a few Treetop homies and stuff. They're cool, you know what I'm saying? But we really did definitely have to put a stamp on it. Like, you know, it was a lot of bloods, man, and took years and years and years of pushing it, and now everybody looks at it like it's the neighborhood South because everybody wants to be from neighborhood all of a sudden.
What nationality are you?
So I'm a predominantly Italian. I got a little bit of other things in my genes, but yeah, I definitely push the Italian card because, you know, I'm a mama's boy or whatnot. Mama brought me up, so.
What was it like being an Italian dude in a predominantly, you know, black gang?
In all honesty, man, this might sound like, you know, some BS to most people, but I really never dealt with any problems until I moved, bro. I mean, like, literally from born and raised all my life in Columbia, South Carolina, bro. You know, I was born in a complete black neighborhood. There might have been one other white family besides us. Never dealt with any of that, bro. You know, all the people I came up with, they looked at me just like, you know, they accepted me like theirs. You know what I mean? Like, I can even recall times back in the day, and this is no bullshit, when I was real little, the homies, they would get mad at me if I didn't, you know what I'm saying, accept myself as that. Like, they would get mad at me if I try to, you know, speak on myself as if I was any less. So, you know, opposed to you do got, you know, white boys that's going to deal with that problem, you know, and whatnot. Like, with me, it wasn't really never an issue. It was pretty smooth of a ride coming up being, you know what I'm saying, a non-black member of a Crip gang. You know, obviously, you know, when you look at things like Crip Blood, these are, you know, originated from black pride, you know what I'm saying, movements. So, you do have, like out here, for instance, right now, you know, I'm actually posted, in Salt Lake City and shit. I got a lot of family out here and whatnot. So you got gangs out here, man, like Crips and Bloods. The full hood, their whole hood will be damn Mexicans and white boys, and it's a Crip gang, you know. And I'm looking at it like, damn, like even me, it might sound crazy coming from me because I'm Italian, I'm a white boy, but that looks dumb to me. You know what I mean? It's like, I understand you got an exception sometimes, and I understand that I was that exception. You know what I mean? But just making it to where a whole entire hood, you know what I mean, is just nothing but, it's, you know, consisted of white boys and Mexicans. I just don't really see, you know, how that goes about. So when I was about 15 years old, I went to LA. My big brother wanted to show me what it was like and whatnot, and he ended up getting locked up and doing like 8 years. He's actually just now getting out recently, went back in, you know what I'm saying? He ain't doing no better, but you know, he was introducing me to a lot of the originals and, you know, trying to get me in there and stuff. And, you know, there was a few homies, not even the older ones though. None of the older homies. All the older homies from the hood accepted me. All the 40s from LA always loved and accepted me. There was a few of the tiny lokes, you know, the young bucks that would see me and be like, oh, not so much that they didn't accept me, but they just wanted to see where my head was. So, you know, I would have to, like, you know, maybe throw hands with a few people who didn't really like where I came from or didn't really like that my nationality. So,
that's what I was gonna
you know,
say.
I definitely threw down over it a few times. But, you know, that wasn't an issue, man.
Explain how it works when you travel to different cities and, you know, you're pushing the RolLN card or whatever. Do you you know, link up with the local RolLN folks, you know, make calls before you get in town, try to just stay low key? What's your personal way to handle the situation?
Definitely just depends on where I'm going. Like today's, you know what I'm saying, like what's going on, bro. You know what I'm saying, I don't really like to say too much, but at the same time, you know, ain't nothing wrong with, you know, stating the obvious. We're everywhere, literally everywhere. You know what I'm saying? We're all over the map. There's some places where we do not exist officially, so if I was to go there, it's just whatever. I'm on vacation. But any place where I know for a fact, okay, we got homies there, I definitely get in tap with, you know what I'm saying, tap in with them, because it's the same way with me. You know what I'm saying? Literally, I can, for example, 2 days ago, random homies, I can't remember if they was 40s or 60s, but one of their, you know, higher, you know what I'm saying, members that hit me up like, hey man, there's a RolLN 40 out here, says he's from South Carolina chapter, blah blah blah. I just want to, you know, hit you to make sure he was official, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, I was like, all right, cool, what's his name? And he was like, oh, he calls himself Blind Loc or whatever, you know, whatever the fuck he said his name was. And I was like, hey, man, I run a tight ship over here, bro. We're all family. Ain't no motherfucking Blind Loc from South Carolina 40s, bro. And
R.I.P. Blind Loc.
Yeah, so right, so you know, it was one of the things where it was like, damn, man, like that quick in a snap of a finger. You know what I'm saying? You found out, like, nah, nigga, it don't go like that.
Yeah.
But you know, definitely anytime I hit a city that's got the homies in it, you know, I'm gonna tap in and try to link up with them, because I'm real in tune with them, especially Select Hampy. You know what I'm saying? Like tiny white boy from the, you know what I'm saying, Connecticut. You know what I'm saying? I got homies. Freaky Low, see, for all these different homies from Tennessee, different homies in all these different places. You know what I'm saying? But for sure.
Okay. Talk to me about what you know about the history of the Mexican gangs in Columbia, South Carolina.
Oh man, Mexican gangs. So, in all honesty, we had a little, you know what I'm saying, sprinkle here and there of a few Mexican homies that would bang, like, you know, a few different Trece gangs. You had like a couple, you know, I would probably more call them wannabes, just because you could tell they weren't connected. They didn't have no homies or no hood or set down there with them. They was just, oh, I'm here, I'm Mexican, I'm not gonna roll with them, so I'm gonna claim my own shit. So kind of seemed like one of them type of situations. You had a few homies I was banging the Trece. I remember in high school, I can recall this one dude coming from Northern California banging Norteño, and you know what I mean? He was trying to come down there and kind of push it on people and get other Hispanics with it. He didn't care what they was, Puerto Rican, Mexican. He was like, oh, you're Hispanic, I'm gonna take you, you know, like. So there was times off and on where we had a few, you know, run-ins with some Hispanic gangs, but more than Mexicans, it would be the, I don't want to say it wrong and shit. I hate people say my damn shit wrong. No, yeah, but what's the race? The El Salvadorians or something?
Yep, El Salvadorians. You got it right.
Yep, El Salvadorians, man, they kind of came and flushed Colombia, more this area called Percival Road. It's like a huge, you know, dirt road, trailer park type area, you know what I mean? And the El Salvadorians, they come and flooded up in there, man, and out of nowhere, we just seen all these El Salvadorians banging 18th Street and banging MS 13, and they did not like each other, you know, like the Serenos didn't like the 18th Streets down there. They was kind of separating themselves, and the MS 13s didn't like the 18th Streets either, even though they was both really El Salvadorians down there. They was kind of getting into it with each other. It's kind of weird because, you know, on the West Coast, it probably most likely wouldn't happen, but the neighborhood cribs don't really too much function with the 18th Streets like that. But down there, we actually was really close, really close. You know, all their leaders and stuff, they all went to high school with me. So, you know what I'm saying, us with the 18th Streets, we were real cool. It wasn't really like a gang-to-gang type thing. It was just a homie-on-homie thing. Like, before the gang shit, we was homies. You know, before all that as a man, you know what I mean? So it just kind of ended up like that. Us with the 18th Streets was cool, but everybody else, it was kind of like a problem. We didn't really too much like the Serenos down there and whatnot, and, you know, it's just the way they was rolling. It was in a predominant black territory, so they was all for trying to look like, you know, oh, we're those crazy Mexicans, we'll fucking cut you, you know, you're from a black gang, you're from anywhere but our side, we'll fuck you up. So they was trying to, you know, kind of have that California Mexican gangbanger mentality. Yeah, I guess you would say. So, you know, we was all for the problems with them.
How did South Carolina take the death of Nipsey Hussle?
Oh man, I would definitely say no differently than the West Coast, because California definitely has a huge impact and inspiration on South Carolina. As a matter of fact, a lot of people always think I'm from LA because I got a huge LA tattoo on my face, but that's because the nickname of our territory is, you know, Little LA. We call it that because, you know, you got our gang right there, all the 40s right there, and if you go all the way to the right, where, you know, Greenview down the road is still connected to Farrell Road and whatnot, you got the rolling 90s, you know what I'm saying? So we really are, you know, kind of set up how California would be, and that's where that name came about. So, you know, when Nipsey died, man, first off, I'll say with, you know, no hesitation, I cried, man. As soon as I heard it, I teared up like a baby. I definitely did. And, you know, I love Nipsey Hussle, man. He's the one that made me want to get the big NH tatted on my traps, on my shoulders and stuff, because, you know, he's got that. And, you know, it was just crazy for me, bro. Like, all of my little homies was devastated. I was getting calls after calls after calls, and, you know, just devastation, man. Like, I guess I can't quite go as far as to say it was as big as an impact on the South as it was the West Coast, because that's where he's from, and that's where it was, you know, that it was crazy there. But yeah, man. I mean, it was definitely just pure sadness, man. Like, it was a goddamn wave of sadness down there.
Yeah, I'm sure you.
With everybody too, just like how on the West Coast you had, like, you know, people from VNGs and, you know, brands, all these different hoods coming together, you know, the 8 Trays, the Hoovers, everybody was out there together just for momentarily, you know, they were letting that happen. It was the same thing in the South, man. Same thing. Everybody was coming together for it. Back in the day, I was only rapping about, you know, 40 this, 40 that, you know, putting K's out there, every single hood, every chance I got, even if there were hoods that I actually didn't beef with. And, you know, my homies would get on me about it, like, look, man, like, I understand where you're at right now. It's cool. You're good. You can do that. It's safe. You know, it's popping. But one day you're going to have to go somewhere where those people you're talking about are. You know what I'm saying? And
that's a good homie,
you know,
dog.
Bigger than, right. And bigger than that, all your fans are not going to be 40. All your fans aren't going to be neighborhood Crips. You might have some fans that are from Hoover, that are from Brim, that are from this, that, and the third. And yeah, and I actually come to find that. Like, I went in the Respect the Glove, my music video comments, and I've seen people from Hoover's like, you know what, I'm from Groovin', but this shit's hard. You know what I'm saying? Like, little shit like that. And it kind of, you know, it was cool. I was like, you know what? Shit, I funked with these people more than anybody else growing up, but they're giving me compliments. So it just kind of opened my mind more to what they were trying to teach me as you know, when I was younger. Like, you know, I got a song called Neighbors, you know what I'm saying? That was literally made just 2-3 years ago. And I was dissing the hell out of everybody, man. And, like, even though that's really where I was in my head and did not care whatsoever, now that I'm older, you know what I'm saying? I'm sitting there thinking, like, damn, man. You know what I'm saying? I got 5 kids, a whole ass family. Yeah, still 40s, but, you know what I'm saying? Family comes before everything. And, you know, I'm sitting here. I'm a big homie. Everybody's looking up to me, and I'm like, all I'm doing is showing my little homies it's all right to put a K after every motherfucking body and say, oh, you know what? We're bigger and better than them, so it don't matter. Nothing will ever happen. But, you know, that's where you're wrong, because something can happen. You know what I'm saying? Tragic. Look at Nipsey Hussle, bro. Like, love him to death, and it was one of his own. You know what I'm saying? Not just a Crip, but supposed to be, you know what I'm saying, another 6-0 and shit like that, bro. Like, you can't overlook anything. That shit opened my eyes more than anything. All my big homies always told me that. Like, you just can't keep yourself in that one motherfucking trait. Like, you gotta be different, bro. You gotta open up, be versatile, make different types of music for everybody.